Never doubt Brazil at a World Cup, never. Because people seem to forget who we are talking about here. This is not just another national team with a famous shirt and a few beautiful memories. This is the only 5-time world champion in football history. Brazil conquered the world in 1958, 1962, 1970, 1994, and 2002. They are the only country to have played in every single World Cup. 77 wins in 115 World Cup matches. A goal difference of plus 130. Only 19 defeats. That is not just history. That is football royalty. But here is the thing. This Brazil is not exactly that Brazil anymore. This is something different. A different monster. This is Carlo Ancelotti's Brazil, and that means one thing above everything else: efficiency. It might not always be samba. It might not always be chaos. It might not always look like Joga Bonito for 90 minutes. But when the moment comes, this Brazil can suffer, wait, strike, and kill you. And if Ancelotti has finally given Brazil the one thing they have been missing for 24 years, then the rest of the World Cup has a serious problem. Because the Seleção are not just back to entertain. They are back to hunt the 6th star. For decades, Brazil were more than a football team. They were an idea. The country of Pelé, Garrincha, Zico, Romario, Rivaldo, Ronaldo Nazario, Kaká, Ronaldinho, Neymar, and now Vinícius Júnior. Brazil did not just win matches. Brazil made winning look beautiful. They turned the World Cup into a stage where football became rhythm, color, imagination, and joy. Other nations had systems. Brazil had mythology. Other nations had champions. Brazil had icons who made children fall in love with the ball before they even understood the score. That is why the yellow shirt carries a weight almost no other shirt can understand. When Brazil walk into a World Cup, people do not just expect them to win. They expect magic. They expect the ball to move differently. They expect defenders to panic, crowds to rise, and impossible things to feel natural. But that expectation became dangerous. Because the more beautiful the myth became, the heavier it felt every time Brazil failed to live up to it. And after 2002, that weight slowly became a wound. The country that once made the World Cup feel like home suddenly found itself trapped outside the final door. Every tournament brought belief. Every failure made the shirt feel heavier. Every new generation had to carry not only its own dream, but the ghosts of every dream that came before it. The last time Brazil lifted the World Cup was in Korea and Japan in 2002. Ronaldo Nazario was unstoppable. Pelé was decisive. Ronaldinho was magic. Cafu lifted the trophy. Roberto Carlos flew down the left side like a machine. That team did not just win Brazil's 5th star. It reminded the world what Brazilian football was supposed to feel like. It felt natural. It felt inevitable. It felt like Brazil and the World Cup belonged to each other. Then came the nightmare cycle. In 2006, Brazil arrived with icons and expectation, but Zidane's France slowed the game down and ended the dream. In 2010, Robinho scored, Brazil looked in control, and then the Netherlands turned the match upside down in minutes. In 2014, Brazil tried to heal everything at home, but Germany gave them the darkest night in their football history. In 2018, Belgium stopped another talented generation. In 2022, Brazil looked ready again, danced through South Korea, reached the quarterfinals, and then Croatia dragged them into penalties and reopened the same wound. Different coaches, different squads, different stars, same ending. Brazil arrived as favorites, looked dangerous, reached the knockout rounds, and collapsed when the tournament became serious. That is the real pressure this team carries now. Not just the pressure of winning, the pressure of escaping a cycle. Because the 6th star is no longer just a dream. It is a question that has followed Brazil for an entire generation. That is why Carlo Ancelotti changed everything. For Brazil, choosing a foreign coach never felt normal. This is a country that built football identity on its own imagination. A country that created its own gods, its own style, its own football religion. So bringing in an Italian coach was not just a tactical decision. It was a message. Something had to change. After years of pain, collapses, and quarter-final trauma, Brazil understood that talent alone was no longer enough. Ancelotti does not bring noise. He brings calm. He does not need to dominate the camera. He controls the temperature of the team. His sides know how to suffer without losing their shape. They know how to survive bad moments without panicking. They know how to let opponents believe they are safe, then punish them with brutal timing. That is what Brazil have needed for years. Not more talent, not more hype, not more nostalgia. They needed cold blood. Ancelotti brings Champions League DNA into the most decorated World Cup nation on earth. He understands knockout football. He understands moments. He understands that sometimes the most important part of a match is not the beautiful attack, but the ugly 5 minutes where your team refuses to break. And when Brazil's World Cup DNA meets Ancelotti's knockout DNA, something dangerous starts to form. And we already saw the proof. Against Japan, Brazil were not comfortable. Japan started with belief, intensity, and structure. They struck first, and for a while, Brazil looked like a team being dragged into the exact kind of uncomfortable game that used to break them. The old Brazil might have rushed. The old Brazil might have lost patience. The old Brazil might have started searching for magic too early. But Carlo waited. He watched. He absorbed the pressure. And at halftime, he put his hands on the match. That is what his teams do. They do not always explode immediately. They adjust. They wait for the emotional temperature to change. Then they begin to squeeze. Casemiro scored the equalizer. Brazil grew calmer, sharper, and more ruthless. Then, in the final minute, Gabriel Martinelli appeared to seal the victory. That is Ancelotti football. It might not always be chaos. It might not always be samba. But when the moment comes, it kills you. And the clearest symbol of this new Brazil is Vinícius Júnior. For years, people waited for the Real Madrid version of Vini to fully arrive with the national team. The explosive version, the fearless version, the player who can turn one loose ball on the left wing into complete defensive panic. Now, under Ancelotti, that version finally feels alive in yellow. He is not just an exciting winger anymore. He is becoming the reference point. When Brazil recover the ball, Vini is already thinking about the space behind the full-back. When defenders step too close, he attacks their balance. When they give him distance, he builds speed and turns the pitch into a runway. But the biggest change is responsibility. Vini now looks like a player who understands Brazil need him to decide matches, not just decorate them. Every great Brazil generation had a face. Pelé, Romario, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Neymar. Now the new face is Vini, not because he plays exactly like them, but because he carries the same dangerous promise. Give him one moment, and the entire match can become his. But this is not only Vini's Brazil. That is what makes it scary. Endrick gives them something wild, young, and unpredictable. He plays like a kid who does not understand fear yet, and sometimes that is exactly what a tournament needs. When matches become heavy and older players start calculating risk, Endrick attacks the moment like it belongs to him. Against Japan, his energy changed the rhythm. He pressed, he fought, he refused to switch off, and that kind of hunger can decide knockout games. Martinelli gives Brazil another kind of danger. Direct, aggressive, vertical, always ready to attack the back post or punish tired legs. Bruno Guimaraes gives the midfield bite and rhythm. He can win duels, carry the ball, break pressure, and turn defense into attack with one decision. Casemiro may not be the youngest warrior anymore, but tournament football needs experience. He knows when to step forward, when to foul, when to slow the game, and when to protect the team. The world has doubted them before. The world has buried them before. But the Seleção never truly disappear. They only wait for the next generation to wake the monster again.